All right, so welcome everybody. We're really excited to have you here today. We are Cannabis Team, and this is our first webinar in the series of breaking into the cannabis industry. And we feel like we are in a great position to put this on. We are a recruitment and staffing firm that started back in 2016. So we've got deep relationships with multiple state operators, single state operators, right across the US, and we actually do work now internationally. In fact, we've just made a placement in Thailand, so lots of excitement in the international arena too. But because we've been in the industry so long, we have deep relationships. And this industry is a lot about deep relationships. We also have deep insights. And that's why we decided to put this webinar series on for you. We've had many people come to us saying, help us break into the cannabis industry. So that's why we put these resources together for you. As I said, we successfully handle placements on the temporary side, the full-time and executive search level positions through our two teams. One is our cannabis team, which really is the beautiful team you see on your screen. They do the full-time permanent placement and executive search. And our cannabis temp team, which you're going to meet later in the series as you sign in. So I'm going to say you all must have the same passion we do for this industry. There's a reason why you've logged in today and taken up 45 minutes of your time. Is because you love this industry. And this is why we're all in this industry, because we have a passion for it. So no matter where you are in your career journey, we know that you will take a couple of pointers away today to help you break into the cannabis industry. So welcome. We're going to take you through a couple of things. We're going to share some insights into the culture in this industry, because the culture is perhaps not what you're used to. We're going to talk about what are the career opportunities, and we're going to talk about what skills and industries are easily transferable into this industry. And we're going to have somebody share a personal story on how they got into the cannabis industry as well. So before we get going, I wanted to share with you some interesting stats, and these are the reasons why we are so passionate about this industry. I find it fascinating that Wall Street is now starting to weigh in on the value of this industry. Right now, the value of this industry today sits at 72 billion. Wall Street is saying because of the demand for the consumer, increasing consumer demand and all these new licenses and states coming online, this industry is projected to be $100 billion industry by the year 2030. That's a short 7 years away. I tell you, that number rivals some of the biggest industries in America right now. So we're passionate because it's a massive industry, but because we place people in temporary and full-time positions, we're also passionate about the job numbers. So Leafy, in their latest job report, have indicated that there's 428,000 jobs in the cannabis industry today. 428,000. That same report, they project in an additional 100,000 could be added into the marketplace because of that increase for consumer demands and all those licenses coming online, particularly with the migration eastward, which really I want to share with you. This I find a fascinating slide. I wish I could say Kansas City is right on there. So welcome, Angel from Kansas City. Nice to have you on the webinar today. Take a look at the slide. This comes directly from our salary guide, and you please feel free to go ahead and download a copy from the link that will be shared with you in the chat. Salary guide's got lots of interesting information about salaries, but this is an exercise we did in projecting what the number of jobs will be added into the industry, particularly on the East Coast, as that's really coming online quite rapidly. If you had to add those numbers up, you see that there's huge market potential or job opportunity potential for every single one of you. So I'll say this. You've come to this webinar at the right place, the right time, and the right industry. There's lots of excitement and momentum. And if you're looking to break into the industry, you're definitely at the right place. I'm going to hand you over to Liesl Bernard, who is the CEO and the visionary founder of CannabizTeam back in 2016. And she's going to give you a little bit of insight into what are the different verticals so you can start to align yourself with where you want to take your career in the industry. So welcome, and so happy to have you all with us.
Thank you, Diane. It was such a pleasure to have everyone here. Thank you so much for joining. Yeah, as Diane said, there are so many opportunities to get into this industry. I think most people think about a cannabis job and you think about retail and a bud tender, but there's so much more opportunity along the way to get into the industry. If you think about just when a seed gets planted in the soil and the journey it goes through to the time it enters a retail shelf, you're looking at so many different verticals and so many jobs along the way. We're looking at cultivation. We're pulling candidates from big agriculture to work in the cultivation space. In extraction, the seed, the plant gets processed and oil gets extracted, and then they start manufacturing all these amazing products that everyone sees on the dispensary shelves. Products also need to get tested to make sure they're safe. So tons of opportunities as chemists and pharmaceutical industries we pull from as well. And then there's distribution, and eventually it lands on a retail shelf, and all of you know what that looks like. But if you think about that journey, there are numerous opportunities to get into this industry. And our salary guide highlights the different verticals that we place talent in, and the top 60 jobs, or the top 60 job titles that we typically place in those verticals. So have a look at that to just get a feel for the scope of this amazing industry. But then on top of that, every company still needs a CFO, they need a controller, they need a legal counsel, huge sales and marketing efforts, and e-commerce is starting to become really big in cannabis right now too. So if you have a skill set in that area, there may be an opportunity for you to enter the industry there. And then compliance, obviously, because it's a regulated industry, it's a huge component of jobs as well. So there are numerous opportunities to get into this industry. And as Diane said, you can enter as a temp or direct hire, and we also now place internationally. So at an executive level, countries around the world are starting to look at U.S. talent to come and train them and depart their knowledge across the world. So it's a super exciting time to join this industry, and getting in on the ground floor when it's still a young industry is probably the best time, because you can be a bigger fish in a much smaller pond. So we're very excited today to share some of our knowledge that we've built up over the last 7 years in the industry. I'm going to have the rest of our team share some of their insights. So I'm going to hand it over now to John Marshall, who's going to talk a little bit about the soft skills and the culture fit that's needed to work effectively in this industry. So I'll have you hand it over to you, John.
Thank you very much, Liesl. I appreciate it. First, I'd like to welcome everybody. It's neat to see where you all are from. I've seen some West Coast, Midwest, East Coast. I saw somebody who's clocking in from South Africa. So yeah, I'd say welcome. I'm one of the co-founders of CannabizTeam. I've been in the industry for the past 6 years or so. I've had a really unique perspective on the hiring practices in the market. Historically, California and a number of other states has been a well-established legacy market, which is made up of like second or third generation growers, farmers, cultivators. Well, I like to say that we're changing the industry one person at a time. We're going from bros to pros, so professionals. Companies are now looking for professional, transferable skills and experience, drawing from other industries. And I think professionalism is key. This industry is constantly evolving and changing. It moves very fast. It requires the ability to learn quickly, to adapt to change. There is a saying that says working in the cannabis industry is like dog years. Basically, 1 year in the cannabis industry is like 5 or 6 in a traditional industry, if you will, just because of the changes that we're seeing, which are happening really every day. Recently, also, we've seen an increased focus on social justice and inclusion. Hiring managers are looking for individuals who have a personal connection to the plant and really a passion for the industry. They want to see a piece of your heart in the industry. They believe it makes for a better employee. So if you are passionate about the industry, or somebody who's benefited from the plant medicinally or recreationally, I think that's not a bad thing to bring up in any kind of conversation you would with a hiring manager. Another thing to keep in mind, no matter what the size, every company is a startup. Every company, whether it's publicly traded, multi-state operator, even a single dispensary or single cultivation site, they're all startups. So therefore, you can be expected to wear multiple hats. You've got to be flexible in your new position and really think like an entrepreneur. There's a ton of opportunity out there, and I wish you all good luck. But with that being said, I'd like to pass it over now to Liz Trim. Liz is one of our top recruiters. She'll be discussing cannabis career opportunities. So thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, John, and welcome. Again, love seeing everybody's where they're from in the chat. I'm here in Baltimore, Maryland, so holding it down on the East Coast. Just a reminder, make sure you put any questions you have that you would like us to answer at the end in the Q&A section in the chat. But two words I really want to highlight that John brought up are flexibility and passion. These two are must-haves for you to break into the industry. What I mean by passion is you have to have the drive and the grit to kind of push through hard situations to get to the growth, to get to, you know, that really prize that everybody's looking for and growth in the industry. And then flexibility. In order to break in, you're not going to probably become a CMO if you're a CMO outside. You're going to have to be flexible in the roles and the titles and in the pay that you're going to take to come into the industry. As John mentioned, it's startup, right? So you have to remember that at all times. But if you have both, you really have the mix that you need to bust in. So really the lower pay, lower title also means fast track growth though. So that is also something to look forward to. Again, dog years. 1 year is like 5 years elsewhere. Also, there's two ways you can kind of break into the industry that I wanted to highlight, and one is our temporary option. Our temp is probably the top temp team in cannabis hiring. I'm very proud of the team and what they've done. They're able to bring people in these entry-level roles that I'll highlight in 1 second. And transition them from attempt to hire, which means they're brought on full time. And they do this at a 40% rate, which is just unheard of, even outside of cannabis. So, you know, this is a great option to break in. So some roles to focus on are bud tenders. Bud tenders, if you have a background in sales, customer service, or even being in a pharmacy, right? This is a great role for you to look at into and target in your searches. If you have a background with like agriculture, horticulture, you work with your hands, construction even, there's where you would look at the trimmer to kind of come into the industry. Brand ambassadors are great for anyone with a sales and marketing background, promotions, even hospitality is a really great way for you to get in and into the industry. And then if you have a background with chemistry, bio, analysis, you know, that kind of background, extraction technician, that is a great entry level role for you to look at. And then we can't forget about our production and manufacturing people. You know, if your inventory, picker, packer, warehouse, you know, any related job to that kind of nature, that is where I would focus. And again, you have the temp option, you have part-time option, and both of these are great options for you to get that industry knowledge that a lot of these other roles that are higher level like expect you to have. So this is one option. Then the other option that you have is more of the full-time roles. So above that entry level. So if you're in HR, you can look into recruitment and being some type of coordinator or generalist. These are roles and titles that don't necessarily require a cannabis background. Finance and accounting, you have the AP and AR specialist or staff accountant. If you're in retail, bud tender, inventory, assistant general manager, they don't always require the experience there as well. Manufacturing and processing, some really great roles that we very recently brought some really top talent into the industry are maintenance manager, distribution manager, logistics, procurement. So those are roles that don't necessarily require the background. And then of course with sales and marketing, you have your reps, your territory representatives or managers, your field marketers, the social media managers, graphic designers. Those are great roles to look at as well. And then last but not least, you have your lab and cultivation roles. So there you'll have a sanitation manager, IPM manager, data entry. So there are definitely roles out there. You just have to figure out how your background translates into the cannabis industry the best. And again, it's a young industry. You work hard, you're going to grow. And two ways for you to keep an eye on this is, the temperature check on this stuff is check our job boards consistently. You can look for our temporary and our full-time permanent roles. They are always adding. I just added 2 more to the board today, so it's super exciting. And then if you want an idea on like the pay or roles you should target in your specific background, definitely refer to our salary guide that has so much knowledge, a wealth of knowledge in there, so it can really help you know where to look and kind of the money to expect. And then last but not least, it is a very highly regulated, highly compliant industry. And this is so very, very important that if you have a background in that, and my partner Ben here is about to take over and tell you the industries that transfer so easily with that compliant background, you will transfer easily into this industry no matter where you are in the org chart. So Ben, I would love for you to take over and kind of let them know the industries. And thank you so much, you guys, for your time today.
Right, perfect, Liz. Thanks so much for that. And just to kind of piggyback a little bit on what Liz was just talking about, my division really regularly places candidates from other industries into the cannabis industry. So we focus a lot on manufacturing and operations, health and safety, logistics, lab and lab testing, like Liz mentioned. But a lot of the candidates that we place have come from longstanding careers in pharmaceuticals or nutraceuticals. They've come from the beauty industry, CPG, like food and beverage, alcohol and tobacco. More or less anything that's really in a very highly compliant industry or that's in a very highly regulated industry, they can pull their skill sets into cannabis with relative ease. In terms of positions that translate really well, I think we place a lot of plant directors and directors of operations. I've done a lot of environmental health and safety managers and quality managers, and they're all really a good fit. As far as the science side of things, we do a lot of lab managers and analytical chemists, wet chemists and quality associates that we're able to pull from food testing labs and state analytical testing labs where they've got, biochem degrees or chemistry degrees that can utilize their skill set in cannabis as well. And really just to kind of highlight on some soft transferable skills and some hard transferable skills as well. So specifically, soft skills are going to be those that enable you to work really well with others and have the right mindset to achieve goals and perform well. And hard transferable skills are going to be those that you can actually kind of physically measure. So they're learned abilities that you can acquire through education and practice. In terms of soft transferable skills, the ability to adapt is really like kind of number one on our list. So I would say in this industry, like you hear the expression, build the plane as it's flying all the time. I probably say at least 2 or 3 times a day. This statement's really indicative of the cannabis industry as a whole and how it really changes day to day. So dealing with change is really essential to any cannabis job, especially managerial and executive roles. And I would say out of all the transferable skills for the cannabis industry, this one's really like the most crucial and important. There's a lot of polls out there that show that flexibility is one of the 4 skills that hiring managers are really looking for, when they're hiring on for departments in the industry. So it's really important to, when you're preparing for these cannabis, job interviews, that you highlight the stories that show how you're flexible in handling unexpected issues at work and also in your personal life. Number 2, I would say, is being a self-starter. So, it's super beneficial to all cannabis careers, especially in this industry because it's so young. I think that, the cannabis industry is still working through a lot of growing pains, and your ability to welcome and deal with those challenges as they arise is really crucial. So you should really be able to think about a time that you took the initiative to carry out a project in the past, or how did you lead the way in that? What was your thought process when creating the plan? How did you make sure that it was executed properly? You should really be able to, kind of highlight and articulate those details on your resume, but also be able to integrate them into the responses, in the interview questions as well. And I would say third in soft skills would be collaborative nature. So, we're always looking for talent that can collaborate well with the staff and within these companies. So every individual on a team has their own strengths and weaknesses. And, communication preferences. So knowing how to approach and work with each team member well enough to contribute to the success is really kind of beneficial and crucial. And having a collaborative nature not only means that you can communicate well with others, it means that you can sound, emotionally intelligent and have respect for diversity and, prove that you're actually an active listener in the process. As far as hard transferable skills, I think that understanding the customer journey is definitely, number one on here. Your ability to understand the customer journey is really the most crucial, I think, out of all three of these. So people that have retail experience are more seasoned in knowing what the customer journey entails. So, learning to create customer journey maps tailored to the audience of the company will really put you ahead of the rest. Cannabis companies and employers are really wanting people that can visualize the customer journey at each of their brand's touch points. So by understanding that journey, you can really kind of adjust to it and avoid the pain points, leading to basically like a higher customer retention, essentially. And second and third on here, we've got digital marketing savvy. So people can't really experience your brand unless they're aware that it exists. So, digital marketing is really one of the best transferable skills to have as far as a variety of cannabis jobs, whether it's, dispensary managers or marketing specialists. It can really help you set you out amongst the crowd. So it really covers everything from email marketing to SEO best practices, video marketing, online cannabis communities, and kind of so on and so forth. And then accounting experience is probably the last one that we'd like to kind of touch on too. So cost accounting experience is a major plus in this industry. Accounting and finance in the cannabis industry can be super complicated and really difficult to manage and navigate sometimes. So somebody that's coming in with experience, kind of creating and executing high-level financial strategies will be a great asset to these cannabis companies as well. And just kind of touching a little bit on the kind of universities that were listed on there as well. So we've got, CSO Pueblo, Lake Superior State University, Northern Michigan State University, just to name a few. And these colleges and universities all offer like a really large selection of coursework and degree programs that are specific to the cannabis industry that can be really attractive to cannabis companies when selecting a candidate. So, if you live in a marijuana legal state, there's a really likely that there would be a wide array of cannabis jobs near you. And if you don't have any kind of direct professional experience with marijuana, you can still land a cannabis job. You just need to really highlight the transferable skills that you do have, be able to network and find ways to, show that you're passionate about the space. So that's all I kind of have there. And I'd love to just kind of pass it over to Danielle, who is our newest addition on the East Coast. And I'll let her share a little bit about actually finding cannabis jobs in the industry.
Thank you, Ben, and hello, everyone. So as Ben mentioned, I am the newest member of CannabizTeam. So I thought it would be beneficial to share my own story, considering this transition took place 2 months ago. So very, very recent. So I wanted to give you kind of a 3-step process, and this is before any sort of application, before you send in an application or before you send in your resume. Just 3 simple steps that I kind of did to get myself into the industry. So I actually saw this question posted in the chat already. How do you convey passion? Passion is a word that every single one of us has touched on because it is such a driver in the industry. So how do you actually convey it? It's about crafting your story. So this is actually the very first step that I ever took before I started looking into cannabis. I kind of committed in my own mind that if I was going to make a job change, it was going to be solely for cannabis. And so I really wanted to figure out the why behind that. And ultimately, it leads back to my mom. So just to share this with you all, I was a very naive kid. I come from a family of 5, and my mom, there's a point where she was a single mother of 5 kids, and it was absolute chaos. And I, was not a consumer. I did not drink or anything. It was until I moved home from college that I learned she has been a lifelong medicinal patient. And so it really turned into nightly sessions, bonding sessions on the back porch, where I just learned about her life experiences, the troubles that she's gone through as a single mom, and really understanding that cannabis is what impacted her. Cannabis is what made her, be able to go about her day to day with 5 crazy kids. And so really for me, it's about helping people like my mom. It's about finding people in cannabis who are passionate about cannabis, who want to join and support this industry for all the right reasons. So really, again, crafting your story is step 1 into understanding yourself and doing that self-reflection, but so you can speak to it in an interview like Ben mentioned. Step 2 is about researching. So you've now heard about the seed to sale process and how there's so many different verticals within all of cannabis. And so your job now is to go and research those roles, identify companies that have similar job titles or job responsibilities of your background, and understand what those transferable skills look like. I think we've mentioned a lot of them today. So for me, I just to give some background, I started in asset management, nothing to do with cannabis. And then I moved into executive recruiting for finance and accounting roles. So I did know that I wanted to go in cannabis. That was recruiting. That was a transferable note. But again, it was really about crafting, okay, why do my skill sets, why does my passion make a fit for the recruiting cannabis space? And step 3, again, this was all before I ever applied. Now it was time to go onto the market and network. So if you didn't know before, now you know. LinkedIn and Indeed are 2 of the most cannabis-friendly sites out there, so I would definitely use that. Twitter obviously just had their big announcement, but these 2 are very, very good for professional content and job postings. So I went on there and I researched the different cannabis recruiting companies. Again, I know exactly what my skill set is and I know what I want to do. So it was just about finding jobs and finding companies who specialize in that. I did research between obviously CannabizTeam and all of the competitors out there, but kind of stuck to my gut and loved CannabizTeam for our content and the fact that we really like to educate everybody, hence these webinars. And so what I did was I actually reached out to Ben, just a simple message on LinkedIn saying, hi, how are you? I'm thinking about transitioning into cannabis and I really just want to learn. It wasn't about a job. It wasn't about, here's my resume. It was, I don't know what I don't know. And I just want to learn from somebody who does know. And with that, I mean, the story kind of wrote itself. We jumped on a call. I think it was either that day or the day after. I immediately jumped on a call with our wonderful VP of Ops right after that and had an interview set up for the following week. So I actually never sent in my application to CannabizTeam. I really just networked my way into talking to the right people and making sure I was selling myself. So it really does go back to, step 1, craft your story. Step 2, research. Research is the big part. You got to make sure that you're identifying those transferable skills and that you've shown to these hiring managers that you've done all this work. And then step 4, networking, right? There's virtual platforms that we can use. And I believe I saw a question about, in-person networking as well. If you simply go to, sites like Eventbrite and create a free account, you can research cannabis events in your area, in other areas where you're traveling. So there are tons of resources out there for you to use to really understand who the right people are to talk to, what job boards are actually the correct ones to use, and then how you actually get your foot in the door. So with that said, I will pass it off to our wonderful VP of Operations, Kristen, who's going to go over some questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Danielle. So this is our Q&A portion of the webinar. We're just going to answer some of the questions that were posted in the chat. Continue to post those as they come on. Unfortunately, we won't be able to answer all of the questions, but please feel free to go ahead and submit any of those to us at our website, or sorry, via email at contact@cannabizteam.com. So to answer the first question, I'm going to pass this over to Rochelle. She's one of our permanent service senior recruiting managers, and she's placed people in all levels from entry level to C-suite. So one of the most frequent questions we receive is, why use a recruiter and how does it work?
Yeah, thanks, Kristen. Definitely. So some of the things I talk about when I say why to use a CannabizTeam recruiter, one of the top reasons is because we're the job search experts in the cannabis industry. We've been doing this since 2016, like Diane said, and we place talent in temp, direct hire, and also the executive suite. The other reason is it's completely free to the candidate. We get paid by the client, so definitely is worth your time to look into. And then just third, I would say is we also have established networks with hiring managers in some of these big MSOs and also kind of single state operators. And we can help you through that process. I always tell candidates when they get started, first just take a look at your background, go out on LinkedIn, Indeed, kind of do some searches based on what your skill set is and get an idea of where would be a good crossover into the industry. That's kind of where I say to start. And then second, I would say go to our website. I know Kristen dropped that in the chat. And look and see what we have on our job board. Say, hey, I've done this in the past. Maybe it'd be a good transition over into this industry. We also post jobs out on LinkedIn and Indeed. So I would say go ahead and apply for a job. And then once you do, we have recruiters that are assigned to each one of those roles. We check those candidates daily. And what we'll do is we'll schedule an interview with you. We'll get to know you. Then we'll put together like a little write-up about your background, and that's what we use along with your resume to present you to our clients. We prepare you before every interview to meet with the client, and then we also negotiate your salary on your behalf based on our conversations. And then, just key is that we provide ongoing seamless communication between you and the client. So they appreciate that, and I feel like it really helps the candidate kind of take that out of your hands and let us represent you and help you get a job in the industry. And so that's what I would say. But and first and foremost also is just connect with one of the recruiters. You see us all out here. We're out on LinkedIn. We have a well-built, strong network, each one of us. We work with a lot of hiring managers, and we post articles and jobs out there as well. So thank you.
Perfect. And I'd also like to pass it over to Candace, who is the division director for the temporary services. She's very familiar with placing candidates because she, in fact, has placed hundreds of candidates herself. So, Candace, can you tell us a little bit about how it works in the temp division, and maybe what are some of the current temp positions that are available or coming available?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. So with the temp division, what we really focus on are immediate opportunities. So we have, some of our clients that are looking to get people, on site to really help out with their volume and extra workload. And a lot of what we focus on are jobs that could get started within the next week even. So we work very quickly. So it's a little bit different than if you're going through a full, hiring process, but we do fully screen all of our candidates. We're able to get you out working typically within a week. We also help facilitate the badging process depending on the different states and where you live. So those are some areas that we can really kind of help you and guide you through that process. So it's a really great opportunity if you're looking for entry level, looking to kind of get a foot in the industry. If you want to even try out maybe a couple different positions, we do a lot of different positions starting with anywhere from cultivation to harvesting and trimming, even stuff such as like warehouse distribution. So a lot of skills that you have from previous jobs would transfer into this, and it's a really great opportunity to kind of get started quickly and really learn the industry from the ground up as well.
Excellent. And I know you guys have such a high conversion rate too, so it's excellent. 40% of the candidates that you work with are actually placed permanently then too. So that's a great option. This next question I'd like to send over to Liz. Liz, can you tell us maybe what are some of the remote and flexible roles that are currently available in cannabis?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So first, obviously I talked about flexibility earlier. So a lot of cannabis is more flexible versus remote, just because sometimes you have to be hands-on, you have to wear many hats, you need to collaborate with the team. But there's a lot of flexibility. So sometimes it's going into the office every other week or once a month, or traveling within your territory. So flexibility is a huge word and definitely possible within the industry. Remote, when you come talk about remote jobs, specifically, I would say we see that more on sometimes a marketing, like if it's a graphic design. I did see some IT questions or tech questions there. We've had worked those roles, and some of them tend to be, remote in nature. And then you also have some accounting and finance roles that can be remote as well. A lot of roles do offer flexibility, so that is huge in the industry. But sometimes sometimes there are some remote options that are fully remote there. So you just have to look for those keywords. You could search remote. If it's flexible, we'll put flexible. We'll make sure it's hopefully very detailed within our job description, so you know what opportunities we have available for your needs. Thank you.
Excellent. No, that's perfect. Super helpful. Danielle, I'd like to send one over to you. Maybe you can tell us, one of the great questions that was listed up there was about how to find some additional LinkedIn tips for networking and job searching.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously when it comes to LinkedIn and when it comes to kind of networking, reaching out, I always like to put myself in the other person's shoes. How would I like to receive a message on LinkedIn? As a recruiter, I'm getting constant, outreach, like I'm sure all these cannabis companies are too. So when you just come to the table with, something simple, I always keep it simple, stupid, kiss the word kiss. I always kind of apply that to my original outreach messages on LinkedIn, just to let people know, hey, I'm not an expert, right? Here's my resume if you want my resume, but I like to keep it simple and just have an open conversation to start with somebody instead of just immediately sending my resume and saying, hey, I saw a job opening, I'm looking for a job. So I think it's really more about aiming for the long-term relationship building than it is about the short-term goals. So really take that into consideration and just start networking. And on top of it, cannabis itself is a very, very small industry. I think we all are kind of contamination between companies and clients and, talking to all these people. So the network itself is very small. So again, it's just about building those relationships up front, because again, the sooner you do it, the more leeway you'll have at the end of the time. So, but we have tips and tricks that I can actually send out as a resource.
Excellent. That's very helpful as well. So thank you. This next question I wanted to send over to our founder and CEO, Liesl, to maybe touch on some of the international jobs that are available, where they are, what those look like, and maybe kind of what those packages even look like.
Sure. Yeah, it's really exciting. I actually just returned from a trip to Thailand, meeting with a number of potential clients in Thailand. And we actually just placed a VP of retail from the US in Bangkok as a result of that. And really exciting that the whole world is sort of opening up to cannabis. And it's truly going global, and there's so much excitement. We've made placements in Thailand and Switzerland and Puerto Rico and Colombia. And I think upcoming, there's going to be a lot of movement in Spain and Germany. So I think Europe will be a very active market over the next couple of years. A lot of these companies are looking for US talent to come and educate them on cultivation practices or extraction, or in this case, our client wanted someone that knew how to open up dispensaries and really tailor it to a customer experience, like Ben explained earlier in the chat as well. So, I think as the world opens up to cannabis, there's going to be numerous international opportunities too. So it's really exciting. So anyone that's interested, keep checking our job board. If you have experience in another country, make sure that's on your resume, because very often our clients want someone that has previous experience working in that culture, because as we explained earlier, culture fit is very important in this industry. And if you have knowledge of a certain culture and will be able to communicate and adapt really easily, plus you have cannabis experience, it really will put you into the best possible position for an international role. But yeah, keep checking our job board. I think there's going to be numerous international opportunities coming up over the next year or two.
Perfect. That's really exciting. It's wonderful to see how the industry is growing so much and expanding. So I would like to go ahead and go over to Candace one more time. We wanted to ask about some of the questions about education and getting out there, some of those other options for getting involved. And what are some of the best ways that we can get that education that we need to enter the industry and break in?
Yes, thank you. I think one of the best ways is, connect with us. We can connect you with one of our recruiters, and we really kind of act as like career counselors as well. So we can work with you to kind of go through your resume, see what skills you have, and kind of determine what might be the best fit for you to start out. We've got, jobs that are opening up in warehouse distribution. So if you have experience doing that, anything with like cultivation, if you've done landscaping in the past, anything like that. So I think there's a really great opportunity for us to connect and really kind of walk through it and figure out what's going to be the best fit. I know sometimes you may not know exactly which direction you want to head in, and so we can kind of work through that. And On the temporary side, it gives you an opportunity to maybe try a couple different positions and kind of see what would be a good fit for you and start to get experience. And a lot of our clients promote from within. So if you get started and we're able to get you, an attempt to hire position, you can be brought on permanently and then, work your way up as well. So I think there's just a lot of great opportunities. And the first step is connecting with one of our recruiters and we can walk you through the whole process.
Perfect. That sounds absolutely great. The last question that I wanted to touch on, some people have been asking a bit more about how to get involved with other aspects of the cannabis industry and philanthropy and really helping to get some steps forward. So I wanted to pass it over to Liz. Can you kind of maybe describe really one of our favorite philanthropies that we work with?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the last prisoner project, I saw a question about that. I was like, yes, I'm so glad that was brought up. That is something that's very close and dear to our hearts and something that we work closely with, especially our VP of marketing. He's super passionate about it and brought this, to our table. So we partner very closely with them. We actually are pen pals with a lot of people that we're trying to get out of incarceration that they're working with. We're kind of offering that ear and kind of getting them prepared for the real world. But also when people get out, we're helping them devise their resumes, get, their cover letter, their intro together, and how to put their skill sets on a piece of paper and the opportunities that would break them into the industry as well. So we're really passionate about it and excited to work with them. And on top of that, just before I pass it back to Kristen to close us out today, on top of that, we also do a lot of, female leadership and diversity and inclusion things. So we have a lot of those types of events going on. I mean, proud to be right here, female leader for our team and our company. So, we can represent ourselves, but that's also something we focus on. So thank you so much for letting me talk about that, because it's a huge passion of ours.
Yes, that's such a good cause, and we love to see that. Thank you, Liz. I did want to thank everyone so much for all of these questions. They were so fantastic. Please be aware, we can't respond to all of them. There is so much interest in the cannabis industry, so we can't get back to everyone right away, but please go to our website at www.CannabizTeam.com. Apply for any positions that interest you. I love seeing everyone posting their LinkedIn in the chat. Be sure to connect. That is the best way to connect with fellow cannabis enthusiasts and people trying to break in. It's also got to be a lot of people that are already in and they are wanting to connect to people who are just really passionate about the industry. What we posted here are some resources for you, so be sure to check all of these out. There are wonderful blogs on here, helpful tips and tricks for getting into the industry. And of course, our salary guide, which not only can help you be more educated, but helps you in those cannabis interviews that you're going to be going into when you are breaking into the industry. Just thank you everyone for dedicating your time for pulling this all together. Join us for our next webinar on the cannabis careers. We're going to be talking about how to write an effective cannabis resume and cover letter. We're hoping to launch that then next month. We hope to see you all there. Pass on the word. Clearly, you're all dedicated to your passion in cannabis and educating yourselves. And we look forward to helping you with your cannabis career and journey. Thank you so much.